Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to our webinar for today here. Joe Shanahan here from VoIP Supply, also along with Abdel from Grandstream. And in a few minutes, Abdel is going to go through the Grandstream's new GDMS cloud service, and we're pretty excited about that today. And during our webinar here today, if you could, on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, you'll see a little button with a Q on it. So if you do have any questions, please enter them at that by pressing that button, just so we don't have to go through the chat. And this way, if we use this Q&A button, we'll be able to compile all the questions. And if we don't get to answer them all here live, we'll answer them all by email after the presentation is over. So please use that Q&A button down at the bottom right if you do have any questions while we're going through this. And just a little bit here about VoIP Supply, if you're not familiar with our company. We have been in business since 2002, so quite a while here in the early days of VoIP becoming more of a mainstream technology. But we cut our teeth with our hardware and provisioning services. Over 60 manufacturers that we cover, thousands and thousands of products, and we can provision all of them for you and make that take that off of your plate. Another program we have is our VoIP rental program, Device as a Service. And if you're interested in that, please let me know after the fact. I can tell you how that works. But, like any rental program, it does allow you to bill your customers for the hardware and services all in one monthly payment. So it makes it nice and streamlined. Our CloudSpan marketplace, that's something that really is an advantage for both our end user customers and our service provider customers. For the end users, they can shop there for different providers that they might want to use that might work best for their business, and all the ones that we partnered with. And then from a service provider standpoint, it gives the service providers a chance to grow their monthly recurring and get some of our customers that are hardware customers to maybe sign up for their service. So it's really kind of works both ways there. A nice program for both. Our fulfillment services, that's something that we have with several service providers that we do. We will do all the provisioning and fulfillment for all of their devices, shipping it out to their customers with welcome letters, instructions, things like that. So really the service provider never ever has to touch that phone or that device. We'll take care of that, ship it right to the end user, and it'll be ready to go when they receive it. And lastly, just a little bit about our Refresh and Reclaim. That's our used equipment program where we do buy used equipment back from customers to help defray cost of their costs for getting new equipment. And then we'll also refurbish that equipment, test it, make sure it's good, and then resell that to other end user customers who may be looking to save some money on their hardware investment. And we do have a full 1-year warranty on all of our Refresh products as well. Again, here's our Refresh and Reclaim. We will buy back used equipment, refresh it, and resell it at a fraction of the cost of a new device to our end user customers. Really a nice program for both. Fulfillment and provisioning, as I was mentioning, we provision the devices. We can take orders through APIs, get it all automated, make it as seamless and easy as possible. Orders come in, they get processed, they get configured, they get shipped out all within the same day. And, almost any size order, we will get it out the same day. We are committed to that kind of a turnaround time here. So if you're interested in that after the fact, also please let me know. My contact information will be up here shortly that you can get a hold of me directly. And then just one last thing here about our reseller portal. This is through our website at voipsupply.com and the partner program. And there was a reseller portal that we have for our resellers to log into where they can access, marketing materials, things like that they can use for their customers to help drive more business and see how our marketing department does with that type of marketing and how we can shine in that arena and really share our knowledge of marketing and things like that with our customers. They can use all the same things that we do. And with that, I will hand it over to Abdel, who will now take over and talk with us about the GDMS. So Abdel?
All right, thank you. And thanks everyone for taking the time to join us today in this webinar. We're going to talk about the GDMS since we released it as an official platform a few weeks ago. So this is the agenda of today's webinar. We're going to talk about GDMS, an overview, and the device configuration and how to manage sites and schedule tasks using the GDMS interface, and also take advantage of the monitoring and diagnostics tools built into the GDMS. Then we will have a live demo where I'm going to show you a few things and how to add devices and manage them and push changes to the devices. And then we will wrap up this webinar with the Q&A session, and John is going to help me with that. So for those of you who are not familiar with GDMS, GDMS is the new cloud-based solution that allows you to provision, manage, monitor, and troubleshoot Grandstream devices from one centralized management interface. I will show you later during the live demo how GDMS provides easy to use enterprise level tools to manage Grandstream products before, during, and after deployments. So GDMS supports configuration presets for plug and play and auto provisioning. And to give you an idea how provisioning works with GDMS, by default, all supported Grandstream devices come with the ACS URL. This is a setting that you can find under the network setting of your device, which points to the automatic configuration system of GDMS. So when the device is unboxed and plugged in, it will automatically query GDMS to check if there is a configuration preset or template for that device. And then GDMS will verify the availability of the configuration preset for that device based on the source MAC address in the ACS query. And if GDS finds that there is a match for the MAC address, GDMS will use that configuration preset and send it to the device so it can start uploading the configuration and the parameters. That being said, GDMS provides plug and play service. You can directly ship devices to the customer without the need to unbox them or pre-configure them. All you need to do is add the MAC address and the serial number of the device to GDMS, and then assign it a configuration preset or a template. So in the next slides, I will elaborate further on the other supported features like sites management, task scheduling, firmware upgrades, and also how to manage and provide access to multiple users to manage the main GDMS profile. So in terms of the specifications and features supported by GDMS, it is hosted on AWS or the Amazon Web Service. The communication between your computer, GDMS, and the devices is encrypted using HTTPS to ensure data security during provision process. Also, GDMS supports both username password authentication and multi-factor authentication. The login password to GDMS is hashed with SHA-256 before being stored to mitigate any data breaches. And during the live demo, I will show you how to set up the multi-factor authentication using Google Authenticator. Also, to ensure private rights of devices, GDMS requires the entry of MAC address and the associated serial number when trying to add devices to any GDMS profile. So in case you have phones that are already deployed in the customer premises and you don't remember or you don't have or you didn't keep track of the serial number, you can always open a ticket with Grandstream and just provide us with the MAC address, and then we'll provide you with the serial number associated with these MAC addresses. GDMS also provides high scalability to accommodate an unlimited number of devices and sites. So you can add as many as you want. And you can also add as many sites as you want to your GDMS accounts. So GDMS management interface can be accessed using the link gdms.cloud. For first-time users, you need to sign up for a GDMS account just by simply entering some information like your email, your name, and after the registration is complete, you just need to activate the account from the sign up confirmation email and start using GDMS. It's pretty much the same process with most of the free cloud platforms. And for added security, GDMS, as I mentioned earlier, supports multi-factor authentication, which you will need to set up manually with using authentication software like Google Authenticator. Or in case you have a physical multi-factor authentication device, like big companies or enterprises, they usually have such device. You can also use that one for multi-factor authentication. And this is something that you need to go to the web interface of the GDMS profile and enable it. And when you enable that one, the user will be required to enter the login username and password, and then the authentication code provided by the software authenticator or the physical device authenticator. There are actually many free softwares on iOS and Android that you can install on your computer or your smartphone. I personally use Google Authenticator, which is pretty easy to use, and it's a very reliable solution. So the first step that you need to do when you have a GDMS account is adding devices to your account. And there are three ways how you can do that. The first option, if you have only a few devices that you would like to add, you can do that manually just by entering the MAC address and the serial number associated with the device you would like to add. In case you have a large number or you're doing a large deployment or large number of devices, for mass deployments, there's the option to import CSV file with the devices, MAC address, and serial numbers. And when you click on import device, something that I'm going to show you during the live demo, the interface provides you with the CSV template that you can fill out with the MAC address and the serial numbers associated with your devices. And the third option is assigning devices to subordinate channels. So let's say you are a distributor and you have a base of resellers. You can actually use or you can sync the GDMS account with the Grandstream ERP. So as an installer or reseller, you can associate your GDMS account with the distributor account. This way, when you make a purchase from your supplier, the devices can be quickly assigned to your account, and you will be able to manage these devices from your account. So you might want to check with your supplier if they provide that service. You can also do it as a reseller when you sell it to your clients. You can always create profiles and just add the sub-channel profiles to your main profile. I'm going to show you this anyway when I go through the live demo so you can have a better idea about how it works. So when it comes to adding SIP accounts to GDMS, as I mentioned earlier, there is no limitation in terms of how many SIP servers or how many SIP accounts you can add to GDMS. So let's say you are an installer and you have multiple UCMs deployed in multiple locations. You can include the IP, either the local IP or the public IP. So you can create two profiles for the same IP PBX, and you can add as many SIP servers as you want. And then you can add the SIP accounts to your GDMS profile. If you want to add a batch of extensions, let's say you have 200 extensions, you can use, and you are using the UCM, for example, the UCM has an option that allows you to export these extensions And just by downloading the template from the GDMS, you can just copy and paste that information in the CSV template, and then just simply upload it to your GDMS profile for mass or for batch import of extensions. So the nice thing about GDMS is that now you don't have to deal with the P codes, P values. It provides you with two interface editors. If you still want to use the P codes, you can always use the text editor, which uses the TXT format. And there's the GUI editor, which is similar to the web interface of the device. So you don't have to find the P codes. If you are familiar with the web interface of the device, you just simply go to GDS and you will be presented with an interface that is closely similar to the one of the phone. So you can just make your changes, apply them, and push them automatically to the phones. GDMS now supports this option, which is also a nice feature to have, which is task management. You can go to GDMS and you can schedule multiple tasks for different devices. And one of those things that you can schedule from the GDMS is the config update. You can create a config template or configuration preset, and then you can tell GDMS to push that configuration at specific time or date. You can do the same thing with the firmware upgrade. So in case you have multiple phones that you would like to upgrade, you can tell the GDMS to push the change, or I'm sorry, to push the update to the phones, for example, at midnight when nobody's using the phones. And you will get an email notification. It's like an alert message that tells you that this phone rebooted for the upgrade. And you can also go to the GDS manager so you can monitor and see if the phone actually took the firmware that you push to the phone. There's an option also to reboot the device from GDMS. You can also schedule a reboot from GDMS. And you can also do the factory reset from the GDMS interface. In terms of scalability, as I mentioned earlier, you can have as many sites as you want. However, there is a limitation in terms of the subsites. So for example, if you have XYZ University and they have campus, and then within a campus they have departments, you can go up to several levels, including 6 subsites in the main sites. There's also the option where you can, when you assign devices to a certain site and you want to move them to another site, you have that option. I'm going to show it to you during the live demo. You just select the devices and you click on the move option, then you select the destination site and the GDMS will move them automatically. So you have this option to move devices from one site to the other, and GDMS will update the information like the source IP address and all that kind of information. System overview, I mentioned this earlier. GDMS has several configuration pages that can be used to monitor and view the information and status of the devices, the assigned IP address or the assigned SIP account information, etc. From the device management page, the administrator can monitor the registration status, the provisioning status, and also monitor if the account if the SIP account is registered or unregistered, or if the device is online or offline. So you have so many things that you can monitor just from the device management of the GDMS. And GDMS is built with an alert management service to alert you when certain events like a phone going offline or an upgrade that fails or factory reset or reboot. So it's pretty much, there is a long list of events that you can configure on GDMS so that whenever one of these events takes place, the GDMS will send you excuse me, an email notification. You're still going to have access to those logs if you go to the system logs, so you can see all the events that took place on the GDMS. GDMS also has some diagnostics tools that you can use to troubleshoot issues when they take place on the devices. And one of these options is the syslog and the PCAP capture. So the customer reported issues with audio or SIP related or network related issues, you can always use the Wireshark or the built-in PCAP capture into the devices. You can just run it from GDMS, so you don't have to ask the customer to do anything. You can simply just go to the web interface and do all the troubleshooting yourself, download the trace, and you can have access to all the information in the PCAP. In case you have issues related to the hardware or something that runs in the background that is not working properly, that's when you need syslog so we can see how the system reacts in the background. If there are problems of reachability, like the phone is not able to reach the PBX or stuff like that, you can always use the ping and the trace route option using the GDMS interface. So now it's official. GDMS provides the option to create a list of SIP servers, and you can sync them with the GDMS using the API integration, which provides many functional interfaces for either the UCM or third-party applications or third-party IP PBXs. And among the things that you can use through the API interface of GDMS, as I mentioned, are SIP account management, an assignment, parameter configuration, and device status query. There is a nice documentation that explains every step on how to use the GDMS API interface for third-party applications. I'm going to show you where you're going to click on that user guide so that you can have all that information in case you want to build your own API so you can integrate it with the GDMS. So now I'm just going to move to the live demo, and these are the contact information of Joe if you guys want to send him an email or give him a call, or in case you have a query. So this is the interface of GDMS. So now it's official. We are still improving GDMS. This is not the final release. We are still working on adding more and more features to the platform. So the first one is the dashboard that gives you information about the device statistics, how many devices are added, how many SIP accounts, how many of them are registered, how many of them are not registered, how many devices are online, offline. So from the dashboard, you can get a general idea about the activity going on your GDMS profile. You can also see the device distribution and also the device list. So in my profile, I only have 3 devices added to my profile: WP820, 3380, and GXP. By the way, now you can use GXP 2100 on GDMS as long as you run the latest firmware version, which is available on the Grandstream website. So as I said earlier, the first thing you need to add is add devices to your profile. If you want to add 1 device or 2, that's simple. Just include the name of the device, the MAC address, and the associated serial number. If you are using multiple sites or multiple locations, you simply choose the location that you would like to assign that device to and just save and apply. If you want to import a batch of devices, there is the device template, which is a CSV file template. You can download it and then you can populate it with the information like the MAC address, serial number. There are many other information that you can actually upload to it. I think I have 1 CSV file here, so let me use that one and see if it's gonna work. 3 data import successful. So now I added 3 devices. So I have a CSV file. Let me just show you how that CSV file is. Sorry about that. I will go back to that one later. So basically that CSV file, if you want to see how it looks like, you can just export this one and then it's going to show you exactly how it looks like. So I have three devices that I just added to my account. You can monitor the status. You can see that one of them is offline. Probably this one is not connected. It gives you the status that it is provisioned. You can assign accounts or SIP accounts to them. And it is something that you can do under VoIP account. So I'm going to do that later. And it gives you the firmware version. So in case you notice that you have device that is not running the latest firmware version, you can always go to the firmware and then you can download the firmware. So for example, if I have the GRP 2614, you just click on download. I'm sorry, 14. You click on update, then it's going to ask you to choose the IP phones that you would like to upgrade from the GDMS. So for example, if I'm only interested in upgrading this phone, I can just select that one. You can send the firmware upgrade immediately, which is update now, or you can create a schedule for the updates. So you have two options, and this is where you decide whether you want to do immediate upgrade or scheduled upgrade. In some cases, let's say you have your system on the latest firmware, but for some reason you want to roll back to an older firmware, or you want to try a beta firmware. For that case, you can use the custom firmware. You just need to download, or I'm sorry, to upload the firmware to your GDMS profile. So for example, I have this test build for the GRP 2613. So once you upload your firmware, it's going to show up right here, and then you just click on the push firmware updates, and then you can choose which model you want to push it. I'm sorry, which IP phone you want to push the firmware update to. The same thing, you can do immediate update, or you can schedule an update for that specific device. So when it comes to SIP accounts, the first of all, create the SIP servers. So if I have multiple IP PBXs, I can add them right here. If I have an IP PBX, let's say that that the users connect to it from the LAN side and from the WAN side, I can simply create two profiles for that IP PBX, one with the local IP address, and then another SIP server with the public IP address. So when I have my SIP servers created like I have here, then I can go to SIP accounts, and then if I want to add a SIP account, let's say this is extension 1008, then I can choose which, if, for example, if it's local device, I can choose the local IP. If it's, for example, a remote phone like a WP820 that is deployed remotely, then I can choose, for example, the DDNS for that account or for that IP PBX. Then just include the SIP address, and then you choose the site, if it's the default or if it's Boston. Let's say this is WP820. I have one here. Then I would like to assign this account to line or account 2. Just save and apply, and then the GDMS will push those SIP settings to the WP automatically. So this is how you add SIP servers and SIP accounts to GDMS. There's also this option uh, where you can is a similar concept to the zero config on the UCM, where you can create model templates or group templates. And the model templates is when you have phones from the same family. Let's say GRP 2613, and you are deploying 100 phone of these model. You can create a model template, and you can add all the configuration that's going to be that are going to be common on all the IP phones, and you can tell the GDMS to choose. You can choose here the devices that you would like to assign this template to. In case you have devices of mixture model, mixed model, I mean, you can create a group. So that's the difference between the model and the group. The model is they have to be from the same model family, and the group you can assign it to different devices. And by CFG is when you have a configuration file, you can simply import it to GDMS, upload it to GDMS, and then you can decide which phones you want to push that configuration. This is useful in this scenario. So let's say you have an IP phone that you have configured manually and you put all the changes in it and you're happy with those changes and you want to upload them to GDMS, you can do that. Just go to the phone, download the configuration file, and then come to GDMS and then import it to GDMS. And then once you import that file to GDMS, then you can choose which devices you would like to assign them to. Next, we talk about sites. As I mentioned, you can have as many sites as you want, but when it comes to subsites, you have the limit of 7 levels. For example, I can do Boston, then Newton office, and then under Newton office, I can add something else, and I can go up to 7 levels. Sites, basically, they just mean location. So if you have different clients, you can use each client as a site. In terms of the tasks supported on the GDMS, here it gives you a list of the tasks and the events that took place on the GDMS, your GDMS profile. For example, this device firmware upgrade was successful. If there is a failed factory reset, it's going to show it to you right here. So you can monitor the status together with the date when that task failed or was successful. In case you want to add a new task, you just add a task, you give it a name. So let's say this is going to be a firmware upgrade. I can tell the GDMS this is going to be scheduled for tonight, like the 14, and then you can choose the time, specify the dates. So here usually it gives you like a range of time between this hour and that hour. The reason why is when you have 100 phones, the GDMS is not going to send the query to the phone to like 100 query at a time. So it's going to do it at the same time. So it's going to do it one at a time. That's why you specify that that period where you want to initiate either the reboot, firmware upgrade, or factory reset, and then you choose the devices that you would like them to receive that task from GDMS. Just save and apply, and then you can always go back and edit those task scheduling events. So we talked earlier about diagnostics. Let's say, for example, I have this phone and the customer is reporting issues with the call dropping after 32 seconds or 15 seconds, and I want to do my troubleshooting. I just go to the diagnostic toolkit, and if I want to take a capture, I just go to capture. If I want a syslog, I just go to syslog and start taking the syslog. So if there is an issue with SIP related or network related, I can start the trace, then I can ask the customer to replicate the issue that they have reported. When done, I can stop the trace, then I can read it, download it from here, and then I can read it using the Wireshark capture. So this is where you get access to those PCAP files. So this is the list of events that took place on your GDMS profile. You can also tell the GDMS which events you would like your profile to send you an email. For example, if reboot is not important, you can uncheck that one. Account registration, let's say that's important to you and you want to know about it via email, you can just check the events that you would like the GDMS to send you an email notification about. If you have multiple users, like in my accounts, I have the admin, then I have junior admin, and then I have Mike. I can select which users will receive an email notification about these events that takes place on GDMS. So this one is for email notification. The message notification settings is whatever is going to show up right here. So if you keep getting a lot of reboot device and you know that the customers, they're doing it every day and you don't want to see them right here, you just go to message notification settings and you can remove the reboot device, save and apply, and then they're not going to show up here when any of these phones in your profile rebooted. You can also delete those events in case you want to start clean page. So now let's go to channel. So this one is sync from ERP. This one is for large distributors and ITSPs, and if you want to use it, you have to contact Grandstream and request the sync for ERP. In case you are a reseller and you have a lot of people that buy devices from you and you want to assign them automatically to these devices, you just add a sub-channel. So when you click on add sub-channel, let's say I am the supplier and I sell devices to many resellers and I want to add them to my profile, so I can just simply choose the devices and send them to their profiles without them having to enter these devices manually. I just need what we call the superior channel binding address. You're going to need to ask the customers or your resellers or your buyers to provide that information for you. So you just copy and paste it right here. Any remark, you just put their names, any option information. So for anyone who wants to get the binding channel address, they need to go to their profile and click on this hyperlink right here. And this is the information that they need to send to you. So they just need to copy and send it to you. When you receive it, copy and paste it in your sub channel. When you create one, then the GDMS will sync the main profile with the sub channel profile. For example, let's say I am a sub channel. I have a sub channel profile, and I already sent this link to my supplier, and then the next day I decided to change the supplier for some reason. I can just simply reset the address. So once you reset it, the main profile is not going to have, is not going to, your sub channel profile is not going to show on the main profile. So it's kind of confusing here. So this is where it comes to channels. I talked earlier about the option to enable the multi-factor authentication. By default, it is disabled. So if you want to enable it, you just go to your profile name, go to personal information, click on it. And if you would like to enable it, you have two options: software token authentication or security token authentication. This one right here, it's a software. You can just, as I told you, personally, I use Google Authenticator. It's very reliable. So you're going to choose the software, then you're going to use the Google Authenticator, then you're going to scan this code, then it's going to give you two codes. And usually I think it takes like 30 seconds before the next code changes. So you're going to enter the first code, then you're going to wait for the second code and enter the second code and click OK. And once you do that, you can log out. And once you try to log in, enter the username, password, then it's going to ask you for the code. The code, you go to your Google Authenticator, for example, and get the code and enter it so that you will be able to log in. For users, as I mentioned, you can create multiple users to manage profiles. You can create a role first before you create the user. For example, I have this user or this role here just for monitoring. So I can choose what that role can do. For example, if I want to allow them to do factory reset, I can select factory reset. If I don't want them to create group lists, I can just remove that one. So after you create the role, then you go ahead and create users or sub-users. Then you can assign them the roles with the tasks and features that you have selected under the role. System logs, this is where you see all the information. If someone made changes to your profile, this is where you're going to see that information. You're going to see where they connected from, what time they made those changes, and it's also going to show you who the user who made that change to the profile, so you can have a better visibility about what happened on your GDMS profile. As I said earlier, now the API integration is supported on the GDMS. So you can use GDMS to integrate it with any third-party API application. So you can grab the information from the GDMS or send queries to GDMS. If you go to this link right here, you will be able to download this user guide. It explains to you step by step how to configure the API integration on GDMS with any third party application. And for GDMS, this is the list of supported devices on GDMS. So when it comes to IP phones, we do support the DECT phones, the GRP series, and the color GXP phones, and the WP, the wireless cordless phone. Video devices, we support the GXV family 3300, conference devices GVC 3210, and also the ATAs, the HT 800. I believe that's it for this presentation. Joe, if you have any questions from anyone, please just read the questions so we can provide them with the answers.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Abdel. Let's see here. We do have a few questions. Let's go right down the line here. Okay, first one says, if configuring phones manually through their own web interface, is there a way to then import the configuration into GDMS?
Yeah, so that's what I was talking about when I was talking about let me go back here, the templates. So let's say you have a GXP 2130 configured, you like all the stuff in it and it's working fine, and you just want to download that configuration and upload it to all the other phones. Just go to the phone, download the configuration of that specific phone, and then you come to GDMS and import the configuration file. And once you import it to GDMS, it's going to give you the option similar to this one right here, where you can push those changes to the phone. So once you click on it, it's going to ask you to choose the devices that you would like to push that configuration file to. You just select. If you want to do immediate update, click on update now. If you want to schedule the update, you can just simply click on schedule config update.
Okay, great. All right, next one here. When will the GDMS support the UCM, where it can pull the extension lists and config from the PBX?
It's very hard to tell. I don't have an exact ETA about that. As I mentioned earlier, GDMS is still under a lot of development. I believe they're going to release a new update in 2 or 3 months. That's going to include more enhancements, and I'm not sure if it's going to include the UCM integration, honestly.
Okay, all right. Next one here says, when will support for GXW gateways and HT ATAs be available?
The ATAs, I believe they are supported already. So if you go to System, about GDMS, and you go to the ATA, so these are the ATAs that are supported right now from GDMS. So you have all the HT 800 family.
And the gateways, is that on the roadmap at all or no?
It's very hard to tell, Joe. You know,
Hard to
there
tell,
are
yeah.
so many devices, and we add them based on priority. You know, which one has more demand for it, because that requires a lot of development on the GDMS platform.
Yep, okay. Kind of a similar question about time frame, but asking about the GXP 1760W. Will that be added to GDMS?
We can wait for the next release and see if they will add that. I heard
Next
that they're
release
gonna
and see,
add,
yep.
yeah, I heard that they're gonna add it, but I'm not sure about the ETA, honestly.
Okay. So will GDMS be replacing zero config within the UCM line?
No, these are two different things. GDMS has a local, does a local configuration update, and it uses HTTPS or HTTP. GDMS uses the protocol TR069, which is completely different. And you can have both of them at the same time. For example, you can configure profiles from GDMS and at the same time go to zero config and add configuration from zero config. And when you have conflicting configurations, so let's say you made a change and the same change on zero config, but they have different values, the last one will override the previous one. So if you push the last update from zero config will override the GDMS update. And if you do the GDMS, the last one, it's going to override the zero config. So they do the same thing, but they use different protocols. GDMS can use it from anywhere. Zero config has, does only local provisioning.
Got it. Okay. And this is a free product, correct?
It is, yeah. So GDMS is free.
Yeah.
Just go sign up for an account, and as I mentioned earlier, you can add as many devices as you want. You can manage them from the interface.
Let's see. For firmware, is there a way to filter by compatibility? For example, only push new firmware to phones which is used on a 3CX system if it's officially supported.
Let me go back here to
Filter firmware by compatibility.
So when you go to the firmware configuration page, you have two tabs here. You have the official one. That's the one that matches the one in our website. If you have, let's say, a firmware that you have been using all that time and it's working fine for you and you don't want to upgrade it because it's compatible with 3CX, you can always go to custom firmware and you can upload that firmware here. And then if you want to upgrade any phone, you just click on the push updates and you select the phone that you would like to push that firmware update to. So you have two options. You can use the official one or you can use the custom one. So I hope that answers your question regarding the 3CX compatibility.
Actually, there's another one here about 3CX compatibility with decked phones, with the DP750 and other decked phones.
Probably that's a different question. Probably is he talking? I'm not sure if you're talking about the 3CX templates. For that one, I'm not sure exactly. Yeah, I'm not sure about that one, honestly, because I have to go and check if the 3CX template for that specific device is already available.
Okay. Here's another one about zero config. I think you may have already kind of answered this, but how GDMS interacts with zero config. Can I use GDMS to do one level of config and then zero config to do additional changes, or is it use one or the other, but not both?
Yeah, I think we answered that question, but just to say one more time, GDMS, you can use it to push changes to any phone as long as it's supported on the GDMS. And you can use it in combination with zero config as well. And you can send changes. Let's say you can send high level changes from GDMS, but when you go to zero config, you want to go into the details and change the SIP settings, you can do that. If you are using the same conflicting settings, let's say you enabled SIP option GDMS, you set it to yes, then zero config, you set it to no, the last one will always override the previous one. So whatever last push update push that you used is going to override the previous one. So you can use both of them in combination.
Okay, perfect. Is there an order that they would be applied if you use both?
That's what I just mentioned again. So the last update push will override the previous one. So if you go to GDMS, you made the changes and you push the update, they're going to take place. But if you go back to zero config and then you click on push update from zero config will override GDMS. And if you go back again to GDMS and you push the update, GDMS will override the zero config changes. That's we're talking if we have the same setting, like conflicting values for the same setting. But if you have different values sent by GDMS and different values sent by zero config, both of them will apply on the device.
Got it. Okay. All right. Very good. Yep. It seems like there's a couple other here, but those are, you've answered all of them, I think. So hopefully that covers the questions that were out there. If you do have more, you can always send those questions direct to me. Yeah, there we go. So again, thanks for joining us here today. There's my contact information, direct line there, and my email address. Please do reach out if I can answer any other questions after this presentation is over. Or if you have any other needs that pop up that you think myself or anyone here at the VoIP Supply team can help you with. So again, Abdel, thank you very much. Wonderful presentation today, very informative, and hopefully everybody found that to be worthwhile. And everybody enjoy your afternoon. Thanks again for joining us. We'll end it here. Thank you, Abdel.
All right, thank you, Joe. Thank you.